Hey, welcome to the Razzle Dazzle Show, a podcast where we talk about our favorite video games and all things pop culture with an emphasis on our favorites. I'm your host, Jared, and our guest today is Moi Camargo. Moi has a Master's of Arts and is a composer and violinist with classical and academic education. He specializes in music production for industries such as video games, film, performing arts, and advertisement. His professional experience began as a music and audio producer for advertising agencies and local brands, producing original music and being responsible for the production and post-production process of audio for videos, adverts, and brand identity. In the video game industry, he has been commissioned as a producer to write and produce the soundtrack for the video game Bo Path of the Teal Lotus, and has collaborated with prototype projects of the indie scene. For the production of independent films, he composed the original music of the short film The Mirror, The Spine. He has composed original music for internet channels and influencers such as Robotitus. Currently, he works as a freelancer remotely. As a violinist, he performs in events and ceremonies, and he hopes to develop a bigger career and experience in the video game and film industry, as well as be a part of companies that he admires, such as the Cirque du Soleil. Let us know what you think about this episode somewhere on the internet, and be sure to follow us on Instagram at Razzle Dazzle Show, on TikTok at Razzle_Dazzle_Show, and on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Raz_Daz_Pod. And with all that being said,
it's Razzle Dazzle time.
Hello, Moi. Thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you. Exciting.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. I have been looking forward to this for a while. Like ever since, of course, I contacted you at first, and I've been so excited. Real talk, I've been listening to your music, like everything on your Spotify, on your YouTube, on your Bandcamp since I spoke with Chris. So, yeah, man, I'm excited. But before we even get ahead of ourselves, the Kickstarter question I want to ask you, would you rather travel through Magna Forest or Valak Mountain?
Magna Forest, definitely.
Yeah, man. God, I love Magna so much. And audience, that question will come back later in the episode. There's a reason why I asked that as a fellow Xenoblade Chronicles fan. But yeah, man, Magna Forest is sick, dude. Good pick.
Yeah. I would love to meet Nopons, and I believe they are the cutest thing ever made.
Yeah, right? They're just so cute, man. Like, do you have a favorite Nopon?
Definitely Ricky, and then Tora. Well, maybe Tora. Sometimes I think Tora is better because I admire him because he was not supposed to be a driver, but he managed to make an artificial blade, and that's like very impressive. Like it's something that I learned from. Like it was inspirational. That was awesome.
Understood. Yeah, man, that's totally fair. But, you know, also, hereupon Ricky Bestis, right? Like,
yeah. And it's very sweet.
Yeah. All right. So let's start at the beginning. Can you tell me, where did you grow up and how would you describe the musical background of your childhood?
Well, I was born here in Mexico. It's a city called Morelia. It's a kind of Spanish style city from the period that the Spanish were here in Mexico. So it's like old, a little bit old. But I was born here and I was raised here. From very little, I started learning music. I first began learning violin. And when I grew up, at some point I started going to the conservatory and I had an academical music background. So yeah, that was my first steps in the music, in classical music.
Hell yeah, man. That's awesome. Okay, let's dive into that a little bit. So before we get into like the conservatory and stuff like you mentioned, did you have any instruments growing up? You said you started with violin, but how old were you when you first started that?
I think I was around 10 years.
10 years old.
It was in elementary school. I also had a melodica. I'm not sure if it's like a little piano that you blow with air.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those. That's cool.
Yeah, that one, and yeah, mostly just those two instruments.
Understood. Did you pick those, or were your parents or your teachers like, you're gonna play this?
It was part of the elementary school teaching. Like that was a subject. So I learned because of that class, and my parents also like motivated me to learn. So it was really fun as well.
Yeah, that's incredible. Do your parents play any instruments? Were there any other instruments in the household?
No, I'm the
No.
first musician in the family.
That's amazing. I'm sure they ask you to like play something all the time for them.
Yeah, especially on birthdays and
Yeah,
like
birthdays,
special.
quinceañeras, like all that
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So what kind of music were your parents playing? Like who were they listening to? Like Selena, Santana, you know?
Mostly Mexican singers. I'm
Mhm.
not sure if you're familiar, like with Marco Antonio
Mhm.
Solis, Luis Miguel,
Mhm.
Jose Jose.
Oh yeah, of
Yeah,
course
the
Jose
classic,
Jose.
the
Yeah.
classics. Yeah, so mostly Mexican music, but also English, like the Cranberries, ABBA.
Bee Gees?
Yeah, Bee Gees.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so a little bit of both.
Understood. I don't know what it is, but like Hispanics, Latinos, like love the Bee Gees. They love disco,
Yeah,
man. We love disco.
I really like it too. Like it's some songs are really like beautiful. So yeah, I think it's common, as you say, in Latinos.
Yeah, man. Did you have any video game consoles growing up?
Yeah, my first console was a Nintendo 64.
Wow.
My sister had a classic Nintendo NES,
Mm-hmm.
and after I had the Nintendo 64, I've had all Nintendo consoles like the GameCube, the Wii U, Switch, and also, well, when I was older, I had a PlayStation because they have very nice exclusives
Yeah.
and very nice games. So yeah, mostly PlayStation and Nintendo consoles.
Understood. We're one of the few people that actually have a Wii U.
Really? Here in Mexico, I think I had it because I used to play Smash competitively.
Yeah.
So I needed to have the Smash 4.
Yeah.
And well, I also had a lot of hope that Nintendo were gonna do something with that console because unfortunately it was a mess.
Yeah.
But I like tried to force myself to play that console.
Understood. Yeah, I also got the Wii U mainly for Smash as well. And yeah, man, like I didn't have a Wii either. Like I started with a GameCube. I had a DS Lite, and yeah, after that, after I got actually the first console I ever bought with my own money was the new Nintendo 3DS XL just to play Xenoblade Chronicles. Like that's
Great game.
the main reason. Like I spend my birthday money on that stuff, you know, and I think it was very well worth it. And then after that, I
Yeah.
got a Wii U.
Best purchase. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I never had a Wii, you know, so like the Wii U, I got to play Xenoblade X and stuff on it. And God, yeah, man. Do you remember the first physical music you've owned that was yours?
Yeah, it was. I think it was an album of from the Killers. I think it was Hot and Fuzz or Fuse. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's one of the Killers albums, and also Viva la Vida by Coldplay.
Mhm.
Those were my first digital, well, not physical albums that I bought in a mix-up. I'm not sure if you have those in the US as well. Mix-up. It's a shop that they sell music.
Oh, okay, yeah, like a record store.
Yeah, something like that. It here it's very common here in Mexico, and yeah, that was my first physical. It at that time I didn't really like pay too much attention to video game music. I was more like into rock and yeah, English rock mostly and pop.
Okay. What was the first like band or musician that got your attention when you were young then?
It was definitely the Killers,
The Killers.
Muse, the Strokes, Coldplay,
Strokes. Yeah, man.
and some Latino bands like there's one called Mana. It's very old. Also Café Tacuba. Those are some Mexican bands. So it was also a mix of English bands and American bands as well, and Mexican bands.
Understood. Okay. What was the first video game you had for your N64?
Smash Bros.
Smash Bros. Okay, so like it started
Yeah.
there. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming for your GameCube you also got Melee, and then Wii you got Brawl, and then Smash 4.
Exactly. It was like the main game that attracted me. So yeah, every time I bought a new console, it was because there was a Smash.
Gotcha. Understood. Did you also get Smash for the 3DS, or were you like, I already got it for the Wii U?
Yeah, I waited until the Wii U version was released.
Got it. Who do you main?
Robin?
Robin.
Yeah, I really like the character. And I used to also main Kirby, but he used to suck. He was not a good character. But I was like very obsessed with playing with Kirby, even though I don't like the Kirby games a lot. I only play the 64 Kirby game. But I really like the moveset, and it was fun sometimes to like win some matches against people with a character that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
Those are my mains. Do you play Smash?
I do, casually, not competitively, so I'm sure you'll kick my ass.
Well, I learned a few tricks from the competitive scene, and luckily here in Mexico, the Mexican community is very good in Smash. So that's good to learn.
So even more so, definitely you'll kick my ass. Yeah, I main Link, like he's my number 1, but like 2 and 3 is Banjo-Kazooie, and then Pyra and Mithra.
Oh, very good characters, yeah. Banjo-Kazooie is one of my favorite games from all time, and
really?
I also love the character. Yeah, I was super excited when they announced Banjo-Kazooie as a character.
Yeah, me too, man. I remember that day fondly, and it was recently, like, it's like, 7-8 years since they announced Banjo-Kazooie for Smash? So it was like that's like a recent air quotes anniversary of that day. And yeah, man, like we still don't have anything new for Banjo-Kazooie, so we're waiting. Listen, man, the music in that game, Grant Kirkhope, dude. Yeah. Shout outs to Grant Kirkhope. Grant Kirkhope, if you're listening, I know you are. Come on the show, man, please. I've been trying to get you on for like the longest time. Anyways, God, same here. Banjo-Kazooie is one of my top like favorite games of all time, and the soundtrack to those games, dude, like they're just kick ass.
Yeah, it's one of my childhood memories.
Really?
Playing that game. Yeah, I used to spend a lot of time playing Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah, do you have a favorite stage?
Maybe the winter. Well, it's like Christmas.
Yeah.
Stage, like the snow stage.
Yeah.
From the first game, I really like that level.
Oh my god!
And from the Banjo-Tooie, I think it was probably the like circus level.
So Freeze Easy's peak for Banjo-Kazooie and Witchy World from Banjo-Tooie. I get you, man. I see you, dude. Hell yeah! I knew I was gonna like you. So what was the first video game you were playing where you like really paid attention to the soundtrack to? Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, I think it was. Well, I always loved the Banjo-Kazooie games, but the first game that made me like pay so much attention to the music that I wanted to compose music in the same way probably was Mario Galaxy.
Ooh,
like that soundtrack like really blew my mind. Like it was so pretty that I was always thinking that it would be awesome to make something like that, and that all different people could enjoy the music. Like it was, I'm not sure how to say it, but it was a moment that made me realize that was one of my dreams, to make at least one soundtrack.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, dude, like the music in Mario Galaxy is very special.
Yeah.
So many ways that like, you know, it's the first symphony orchestrated soundtrack for Mario. And that's just a big deal in itself. And it is just top tier. I have had, I think I lost it at this point, sadly, the soundtrack, like the CD for that soundtrack. I still have my copy of Super Mario Galaxy, but I guess I just lost the soundtrack and I'm sad about it.
Yeah, I remember that the CD of the soundtrack was also in the case.
And that doesn't really happen with video games, at least not anymore, you know, like having such like, I don't know, a different type of, or not different, but like, I'm going to use special, right? Like it's such a special thing that Nintendo was like, we need to like emphasize on this more because of like how big of a deal it is. And that's crazy to me.
Yeah, exactly. Because before it was like MIDI, right? It was like computer instruments.
Yeah, you know, like digital stuff. Yeah, like the beeps and boops that like we all love, you know, like, you know.
Yeah. even the Mario Galaxy, I believe it's like virtual instruments. So yeah, it was a big deal that Mario Galaxy had recorded instruments.
Yeah.
As well as Zelda Skyward Sword. I believe.
God. Yeah, man. God. Zelda's my favorite thing. So like, yeah, man.
Yeah.
A lot of people hate Skyward Sword based on the motion controls, mainly. I honestly don't think it's that bad. As long as you have patience, but like everything else about that game I think is spectacular. Like the art style, the watercolors are fantastic. The soundtrack is phenomenal. You know, the story itself, the origins of Hyrule, of the Hylia, Ganondorf's Demise's curse. Like, dude.
Exactly. Yeah. I also think it's a good game, but I wouldn't consider it one of my top 3 Zeldas.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah. What are they?
My top 3 will be, the first one will be Twilight Princess.
Oof.
The second one will be Wind Waker Majora's Mask, and the third one will be Wind Waker.
I get you, man. I get you, dude. Like, it's so hard not to like those games. Those are amazing games, dude. Like, I get you.
Yeah. And they had a very big influence in me.
Yeah.
When it comes to like the music, those games really influenced me and made me like had a specific style in my music.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
Well, for example, when I try to imagine music, for example, for if I'm asked to make music for a certain level, like a mansion, a level for snow, I always go to those games and listen to those songs, and I start like point or to see what are the elements of the music that makes effective or that are the most useful to describe a certain level. Yeah, so those will be like my go to see games or music. Yeah, so those are my references.
Understood. Okay. We'll dive deeper into all that stuff in a second, but this next question I'm going to ask you requires some context, some explanation so you can like understand what I'm asking. I work at WGCU, a NPR PBS station in Southwest Florida, and we have this other show, this other podcast that I am also a part of called 3 Song Stories. And the basic premise of the show is, we tell people's biography through music. So the guests will come in, they will pick 3 songs that every time they listen to these songs, they are immediately transported back to a place and time that they have a significant, important story associated with. It can be, very heartfelt. It can be very funny and silly, or it could be like detrimentally important to their life, to their character. It could be like whatever, a strong story associated. And I want to ask you, since I'm also a part of that show, do you have one song story off the top of your head?
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah.
Well, because just choosing one, it will
it's
be hard. It can be any kind of music or song.
Anything. That's the beauty of it.
Well, it will probably be one song from a Japanese band. The band is called Lamp, like a lamp, and the song is called Sachiko. And it was really meaningful to me because I used to listen to that song during a period of time that I was a little bit like depressed. It was during COVID also, and I remember that I was isolated in the UK because I was studying a master, and I used to like listen to that song every day while I was taking a walk in the woods because I was living in the university accommodation, and the only place that I could go safely was the woods because there was nobody in there.
Right.
So yeah, it was like every day that I will take a walk in the woods, I will play that song, and the song is actually a little bit like nostalgic, and it has a few like lyrics that like really made me like connect with the song. Yeah, it will be that song, I think, because it's probably the most special for me.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. How does that song fit into your life today?
Well, when I listen to that song, I remember the days that I used to live in the UK. So every time I listen to that song, I'm like literally, what's the word? teleported to that place in my mind. So yeah, it's like I can close my eyes and I can see under my eyelids the scenery.
The forest that you're walking through, the path.
Yeah, there was a beach also.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, so I remember that. I remember the seagulls making noises.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything.
That's beautiful, man. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. No, yeah.
Well, all right. Well, let's get into your career now. And, you've already touched upon it at first. You got a strong classical background as a violinist. And, you were also classically trained. And so how does all that stuff influence your approach to composing for modern medias like video games and films now? It's a big question, but,
Yeah, well, it definitely helps me because I can understand theory in a deeper way. I can also understand what the big composers have done before, because most of them, or a few of them, are also the classical trained, and most of that music is orchestral, so it has a big relevance to classical background. It also helped me to understand the resources of each instrument, and also to understand the different instruments that are outside the Western tradition. For example, in both example, I had to have a minimal comprehension of Japanese instruments because they're a little bit different from Western or classical instruments. Although, since I didn't record actual instruments, I had a bit more flexibility than using the real ones. So yeah, I will say that it really helped me in my current compositions. It's really helpful to understand how to read music, how to listen to music and analyze it. And luckily, nowadays, there are many YouTube videos that help you analyze music, even if you don't have a classical background. But it's very useful, definitely, to be able to just understand it.
What made you decide to pursue studying classical music when you went to school?
After middle school, I had the opportunity to enter the classical, the music career in the conservatory, because I wasn't sure what to study. I wasn't sure what I wanted to be professionally. My dad is chemist, so he always suggested me to also do something like that. But I wasn't really convinced, and I wasn't really happy with that decision. So at some point, I was just looking for what to study, and luckily my mom told me, why don't study music if I already had some skills. So yeah, at that moment I thought it was a good idea, although it's not easy. But I had the support of my family, and that meant a lot, because yeah, it's not easy that your family supports you in an arts career or something like that, especially here in Mexico.
Yeah, man, I totally get that. I really understand. And yeah, and you did the legwork, you got an MA and that type of stuff. That's incredible. You come a long way, and I'm sure your parents are really proud of you and all the work you put in. And now you're a freelancer. You're a freelance composer, and you've worked remotely on a variety of projects already. Some short films and stuff like that. You've made music for a certain YouTuber. How do you manage the creative process when working independently? And what are some of the biggest rewards and challenges from freelancing in the music industry?
Well, one of the challenges is that as a freelancer, you have to promote yourself.
Right.
And I really suck at promoting my work. So it's really difficult to go and show my work, because I'm really an introvert.
Yeah.
So it's something that really makes it more difficult to be a freelancer, because you have to be in the social media, posting and sharing and making content and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not really good at that, and I'm not really also fond, or I don't really like that part of the freelancing. I don't really like to show myself too much.
Yeah, you don't want to brag, but you kind of have to because of the nature of it. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, but also it's very satisfactory, because it has made me realize that I'm capable of many things. It's also great to like learn something new from each experience. I meet new people every day. Well, not every day, every project. So I will say that it also has good things, I will say, but it's mostly challenging. I will say it's mostly challenging.
Yeah, just like getting the word out there, like putting yourself out there. I get that, man. Like you're doing it as like your job. This is where like the similarities I'm about to bring up, like parts, right? Like for this show, we don't make anything out of this. Like this is just for fun. You know, we've been doing it for 4.5, 5 years now, you know, and like we haven't earned a cent from anything. Like I'm really losing money because of like the promotions and stuff like that, and like trying to like get it out there and stuff, you know, like, but a lot of it is just stems, like the reason why I keep doing it, a lot of it stems from just like I'm having fun doing this type of stuff. Like I'm also meeting a bunch of great people and like having fun talks with them, you know, fun talks with you, you know, like getting exposure out there. And yeah, like it's very challenging to like, you know, when you're small, when you're a niche or whatever, especially in a oversaturated field. I'm sure there's hundreds upon thousands, maybe millions of independent freelance musicians out there, you know, like doing their own thing, having like they have their own unique sounds, but like because of all these sounds, there's just a lot of white noise, and you're trying to like come out on top and break that through that white noise and catch somebody's ear. And that's like extremely challenging, and I get that, dude. Like I understand what you mean, but like so far I think you're making a lot of great headway. I'm just saying.
Thank you so much. Yeah, for me this opportunity of making the music of Vol was like a dream come true, because yeah, as you said, it's not easy to be noticed with all the great musicians and composers out there that many times can be a bit too much.
Right.
It can be overwhelming,
yeah,
especially because many of them are incredibly good and many of them have very good equipment or very good home studios and things like that, and you have to like start from the bottom, little by little, and
starting in your closet or something. Like I get you.
Exactly. And as you said, for me, many of these experiences and opportunities for the things I have done are just because I love it, and many times I don't charge the same amount because many of times I'm just like okay with the budget. So yeah, most of the time I just work without thinking about the payment. I just do it because I know I'm gonna learn something from it, and because I love it.
Yeah, man. And you know, that's also a double-edged sword, you know, like you want to do the thing, you at least you're getting paid for something, but like it's not as much as you want, or like I get what you mean, but like I also like to think, you know, as long as you're having fun doing the thing that you love, that's great, man. Like that should be the goal for anybody, you know, and being fortunate enough to be able to do that there's something beautiful, there's something magical about that.
Yeah.
But right before we get into Bo specifically, I want to ask, how did you get into like the transition from like, you know, doing classical stuff from you know, the things you were doing to composing for video games? Is there like, were you already trying to get into like video game music, or you were just like, I'm down to do anything?
Well, from the time that I used to be a violinist, at that time I remember that I was not the best violinist in the conservatory, and I many times struggled like to keep with the others. So at some point I was used to maybe give it a try to theory field, and I remember that at that time I already admired the soundtracks, well, not the soundtracks specifically, but the music from different things. And I decided to maybe give it a try to composition. So I changed my field from violin to composition. And at first I began to compose classical music and contemporary music, which can be very different from the music that I do currently, because most of it is like very abstract. So yeah, it was very different because you have to experiment with different things and not classical music. Sometimes it's more like experimenting with noise, with possibilities, and things like that. So for a period of time, I studied contemporary music, and although I had a big experience from that, once I was able to have a premiere in Japan of one of my classic, well, contemporary pieces. But after that, I realized that I was not really happy with that because the audience from that kind of music is very small. It's a very niche music,
Right.
and it really didn't have in me the satisfaction that I wanted. I was not very satisfied with that. I was like very doubtful. So after that period of time making contemporary music, I was invited by a friend to advertising company or something like that to try to make jingles and music like for videos and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it. I also began to take some music for cinema classes, like some courses. When I was studying music for film, I also realized that I wanted to try to make music for video games. So yeah, it was like transition from classical to contemporary to advertising to film, and I finished by just trying to make music for video games by posting in Fiverr like a gig. So yeah, that was like the transition.
Yeah, that's what a roller coaster, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome though. So okay, now since we know that, let's get into Bo. Let's get into Bo, Path of the Teal Lotus. Can you share like the origin story on how you got involved with this project? Did Chris just reach out to you randomly, or like what's the story here?
Yeah, as I said, my first attempt to make music for video games was in Fiverr.
Yeah.
So I just posted something in there, and after a year or something like that, that I was not receiving any clients. One day, Chris reached out to me and said, we need a composer for a game jam. So it was a game jam. It was I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. A game jam is basically just making a game in a weekend.
Oh, okay.
It was like something very small, but they needed a composer, and he was offering music for like $15. It was very cheap. So I received the message from Chris, and from that experience, I think he liked how I worked and the music I did, and he then invited me to make a audition for Bo because he said he needed music for an Asian game, and he told me if I was familiar with Asian music, and I was really not familiar at that time. Like I was not sure how to make it. I used to have some very cheap libraries from Asian instruments, but I was not like very familiar. So I made a few samples and I sent the music to Chris, and he liked it. So that was how I managed to get in the project.
That's awesome, dude. Like, and for the audience, when we mentioned Chris Stair, his episode just released 2 days ago. I should have brought this up in the beginning. This is one of the very rare occasions where the Razzle Dazzle show is double uploading the same week. So because of that, I just want to I want to take this time to shout out, of course, Bo, Path of the Teal Lotus. Go check out Chris Stair, the developer of Bo, and one of the founders of Squid Shock Studios, whose episode just released a couple of days ago. We had a really great conversation about all his stuff and influences, and of course the game itself. Right now, the Squid Shock is currently having a campaign on Makeshift for a Bo plushie. So if you want the second edition of a Bo plushie, so if you want that, go check that out. All this hashtag not an ad. I'm not being paid to say this. I'm just saying it because I love this game and I love the work you and Chris have done, Moi. It's fantastic. It is phenomenal. Like I mentioned before, also they have a Patreon. Squid Shock has a Patreon for Bo. So if you want to support this game, like the Razzle Dazzle Show is doing. We are a proud supporter of Bo. Consider.
Thank you.
Why not consider? Anyways,
Yeah.
I mentioned at the top of the show that I have been listening to your music nonstop ever since I emailed you. And dude, there's something about playing through a game and being mesmerized by the soundtrack while playing, right? But there's another level you can go deeper with by just listening to the soundtrack by itself, like removing the gameplay, just sitting there actually listening to each track. There's oh my god, there's something brilliant about that, and it has made me appreciate the music you have made for this game even more. For this being your first step into Asian music, and also I just want to point out, we're talking about a Latino who has trained in classical music, been playing violin to produce Asian style music, and yet coming out this beautiful. Like, what? It's kind of mind blowing to me if you break it down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, many people don't expect a Mexican making Japanese music.
Yeah.
So, it's a bit strange.
Yeah. Can you share some of the process, the creative process for the music in this game? How did you ensure the music align with the atmosphere and the storytelling?
Well, first of all, I think it's fair to say that it's not completely Japanese because first, I'm not Japanese, and second, the language of the music is Western. It's like within the classical tradition because I use like chords and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it a mix of Japanese and Western music. The thing that helps me to give it a Japanese flavor is the instrumentation, because the timbre of the Asian instruments really gives it the perfect sounds to make it a little bit more authentic, I will say. Maybe. Yeah, basically the process of that was like first listening to the examples of music that I love. For example, the first sample that I gave to Chris was inspired in one of the Xenoblade Chronicles.
Dude, okay, I'm so sorry. I have to stop you because this is part of my questions, and I asked Chris this as well. I'm so sorry. I got to stop you. But okay, Midori Forest. That has got to be influenced by Magna Forest, no?
I wouldn't say that it was very influenced by Magna Forest. I'm not sure because I had another song for that, but maybe it had a few like hints or.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say that it was directly from that.
Right. But
for example,
yeah,
I can give another example. I can tell that Sakura City was very influenced by Auresco from Xenoblade Torna.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that song that really inspired me in many things, and so even the beginning of the Sakura City is very reminiscent to Auresco, because I think I will say that maybe Auresco is one of my favorite from all time, alongside with Satoral Marsh.
Yeah. Oh God, Satoral Marsh is so good, so pretty at night. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and both of the tracks are from the same composer.
Yeah.
That luckily composed another two guest songs for Bo.
Yes, he did. Manami Kyoto.
Exactly. For me, it was like, wow.
A dream come true, I'm sure.
Yeah. It was like very special because even just like sharing credits in the game was like, wow, it's like my hero or something like that.
Yeah, I get it, dude. Okay, so I'm getting excited from this Xenoblade and Bo collaboration. I don't even know what the word is. You know, these influences, because I could swear up and down, and I told this to Chris as well in his episode, that I hear like some of the same, I don't even know what it's called because I'm not like that much of a musician, but I hear hints of Magna Forest and Midori Forest, but also I hear Valak Mountain in Megumi Mountain. So, like, I could have sworn, and I asked Chris this, and he's like, well, I'm not entirely sure how far the references go, because I know Moi likes Xenoblade and drew a lot of inspo from that. So that's, like, something I've been really wanting to talk about. And, like, I was looking through your YouTube, and I saw you also did a rendition of Magna Forest. And
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, dude, it's gotta be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely probably many things that I borrowed from those, because as I told you, when I have to compose music for a certain thing,
Yeah.
I go to my reference tracks, and definitely those will be my reference for music and mountain and type of songs, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, even for example, for the cave,
Mm-hmm.
I went to the Defra cave and in Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, these resources from these instruments are very useful. I have to like think that these really convey the feeling and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So I just have to make sure that even though I borrow some resources, I have to kept it original with the melodies and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Understood. Have you played through Xenoblade 3 yet?
Yeah,
Dude.
I really like it, especially the DLC. It's completely fan service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so good, dude. Like, and also the music there too. God, it's so good. Like, you know, Xenoblade 3, this whole motif is like a flute, right? And God, that sounds beautiful. But like, having the blend of like the three main instruments from each three games. So like Xenoblade 1, very piano, I think. Xenoblade 2, very like electric guitar, right? And then 3, flute. Having like all that blend together in that DLC is like everything, you know?
Yeah.
Anyways, back to Bo. Xenoblade sidetrack because I couldn't contain it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm also a super fan, so I can also hold my excitement when I'm talking about Xenoblade with other people.
When working on the soundtrack for Bo, how closely did you collaborate with Chris and Trevor? And can you share any memorable moments or challenges while making the soundtrack?
Well, I worked more closely with Chris. Since he was the creative director,
Right?
He gave me sometimes specific like tracks that he wanted to be like the main influence. For example, many times he showed me his reference tracks and that were Ghibli tracks. For example, Ashtato-san, I think from Mononoke Princess.
Princess Mononoke, yeah.
Yeah, or also Path of the Wind from Totoro.
Yeah.
He sometimes gave me those reference tracks. He told me, I really like this vibe. He's a bit familiar also with music, so many times it really helped that he was familiar with terminology or some words that are to describe music. So yeah, having a director that can express with accurate words in music really helped. With Trevor, I wouldn't say that it was direct work because he was more in the programming side, but he sometimes told me the music is great or things like that. So many times Chris just would describe me the things that were happening in the game, because I composed the music very advanced from the game. Like,
okay.
They sometimes didn't have the visual of the finished product, so I had to like imagine what was happening in the game.
Interesting.
Yeah, for example, in some bosses, he told me we are thinking about this and this and this. For example, for the Tengu Trio, he told me,
oh God, yeah.
It's windy and it's ice and things like that, and I was like imagining what instruments can convey that and what kind of music can convey that. So I was, for example, for that boss, I was thinking about violins playing very quickly to like convey the chaos of the wind and things like that. So it was mostly a process of being described the things that were happening and me showing some examples or giving a brief insight of my my creative process to Chris, and many times he really liked the music. It was not very difficult to make it because we managed to make the music at the first attempt sometimes.
Oh, that's awesome. Were you ever given like concept art of these like characters for like character specific themes like Asahi or something?
For a few, yeah. For example, Asahi. That track actually was not for Asahi. That was just the trailer music. Yeah.
Trivia.
He told me, yeah, he told me we need a trailer for the Kickstarter. So I made the Asahi track, but I composed the motif of Bo and I composed the motif of Asahi because I was thinking that those two characters were gonna be relevant. So I used their motifs in the music.
Right.
And I told Chris, well, I imagine that even though he didn't share with me the whole plot of the game, I told him I imagine that at some point Asahi might battle against Bo or something like that. So I was like imagining things that were not actually probably there.
Right. Like at the time, yeah. You're just like making up. Yeah, I get you.
yeah. I was imagining things, and I took the creative liberty of assuming things. And after making the trailer music, he told me, "Well, I really like this music for Asahi, so we're gonna call it Asahi."
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Trivia, hell yeah.
Yeah. There are some like fun facts about the music like that.
Oh, I love that so much. This is an unfair question because like you made these tracks and it's like picking between your babies. But I'm going to ask you anyways, and this like I know like interview 101 if you're or journalism 101 if you're interviewing a musician, don't ask them, do you have a favorite track that you've made?
From Bo?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
Okay.
it's Hashihime. Hashihime was like that. What was my favorite? Because first, Hashihime is best waifu in the game, and second, I composed that music when we finished the Kickstarter, and when we managed to get a lot of funds. So I was like very happy, and it really motivated me to compose that track. And I believe it can be heard in the song. Like I pay a lot of energy, or I worked a lot on that track because I was like very motivated, I will say.
Yeah.
With the reception of the people and with the support of the people, because many people pledged for the music. So that was awesome. And yeah, Hashihime track it's for me it's very fun. Like I like that track, and I usually listen to that track.
I just listened to today one of the unreleased music tracks that is available through the Patreon for being a patron. It's called Rising Sun, and it was supposed to play during the end credits, and it's a medley of several tracks from the game. Chris says in the description, the first time I heard this, I teared up because it brought back so many memories from development of the game, which is a very beautiful thing to say. How many unreleased tracks are there, if I can ask that?
Tracks that I composed, I suppose there are maybe two.
Okay.
But I'm not counting the tracks that Manami Kiyota did.
Right, of course. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, because she made, I believe, 4. But I cannot say much about that.
Of course.
And also, I don't have like the right to publish that music, so I have to let Chris or Manami Kiyota to manage that.
Understood. Yeah.
But yeah, there are a few tracks.
Okay.
And yeah, that track, Rising Sun, it's also a little bit special to me because it's like, it's basically that track was basically just taking the different themes that I composed through the development of the game, which took 3 years. So it was like a bit nostalgic.
Wow.
So it's a bit also special to me, but Hashihime is definitely more special, and you can hear Hashihime motif in that track. So maybe that counts as why it's really good as well, because it has Hashihime. Steam.
Understood. Since the game has already been released, have you had the chance to play it?
Yeah. I played it on Switch. I got it on Switch. I also had the opportunity to play some of the beta, but it was just, I think, once because I didn't want to also spoil a bit too much. So yeah, I had the opportunity to play it, but because of all the Humble Bundle mess, I think the Switch version is not gonna receive, at least soon, the updates.
Right.
I hope I'm mistaken, but
yeah, from what I remember Chris saying is that the Steam patches will come before the console patches.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is understandable.
So I just wish that the updates get to the console version soon.
Yeah.
Because they have made a few changes in the Steam version that I really like, and because
like the fragile egg quest.
Yeah, exactly. I think. And I also gave a few suggestions to the sound designer.
Cool.
Once I saw the finished game, I remember I told him, why don't we just adjust this, just to make sure that all the music is perfect everywhere. So
of course,
I just have a few comments that I noticed once the game was out.
Yeah, understood. How far are you into the game, or did you beat it?
I already finished the game.
Cool,
but
man.
not 100%. I didn't do the egg quest.
Dude, it's rough.
Yeah, I think it's it's a bit beyond reasonable.
Yeah, man. Chris and I talked about it for a while, and whoa. I managed to 100% the game, and it's rough. It took me 18, 19 hours to do it all, and the majority of that time was because of the damn egg.
Yeah, exactly.
God, okay.
And since the Switch version doesn't have the trophies,
oh yeah, you get away with a lot of things.
Yeah, it was not worth it because I don't get any trophy.
Yeah. I'm playing it on the PS5, and there's also a trophy for getting 8,000 Foxfires, and they haven't, since it's on the console, it hasn't been patched yet for 8,000 collective. No, you have to get 8,000 at a certain point all together.
Yeah.
And it's not collective, and I had to grind out for that too, and I'm like... Yeah. Chris and I talked about it, and it's don't worry. He was like, don't worry, it's gonna get fixed, but you did the work. And I'm like, I know.
Awesome, because it's a bit too
rough.
Hard. Yeah,
but it's something I love about Metroidvanias in general is there is a good balance, I think, between it being a casual fun game but still providing enough challenge for air quotes hardcore gamers to get a kick out of, that Fragile Egg quest. You don't have to do it. It's not required or mandatory to play the game, but for completionists like myself, we have to do it. And there's that level of challenge where you got to make it through half of this dungeon in reverse order without taking a hit. Whoa, no save points, no nothing. If you've messed up, you got to go back. There's that challenge, and there's no difficulty setting in Bow either. So everything's pretty balanced already. So adding these little extra flares is kind of refreshing, even though it's throwing yourself against a wall. But once you get through that, the feeling is phenomenal. You're just triumph, yeah, man.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's probably a little bit like playing a Souls game. I'm not sure if you like those.
Yeah,
I recently finished the Elden Ring DLC.
Oh yeah?
And I was like, it's very, very hard, but it's really satisfying to do it.
Yeah.
And I agree that in this case with the Fragile Egg, there's some kind of reward that you managed to beat it. Even if they patch it, you're gonna have the reward that you did it pre-patch.
Yeah.
So, that's great.
That's exactly what I said to Chris too. It's like a Souls game. I actually made that connection. Oh, that's so cool, man. All right, one final question before we get into the speed round. I just want to ask, how was it collaborating with Manami Kyoto? I know we touched upon it already, but did you collaborate with her? You got to talk to her, or what was the vibe?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I never managed to talk with her.
Oh,
I'm not sure if it's because she doesn't speak too much English.
Right.
But I was told that maybe we were gonna have a meeting once, but that didn't happen. I all I know is that the producer of Bow was the direct connection with Manabi Kiyota. But the only thing that I managed to like do in that collaboration is giving some feedback, because she sent some like some examples of the music. And since we are different composers, it's obvious that the style is gonna be different, right? So Chris told me that he wanted me to give some feedback to make the music more cohesive or a bit more similar to the general soundtrack, because it will be like very striking or very strange to hear a music that sounds very different from the rest of the game, right?
Yeah.
In some parts. So I was able to listen to her drafts or her first like compositions, and I just gave some suggestions of a few things to just adjust to make it a bit more similar to my compositions, just for the sake of the general soundtrack too, because Manami Kiyota works a lot with electric bass and things like more modern, and I wasn't sure if it was gonna be good because the whole soundtrack is more orchestral and more instrumental. And I don't use really any electric instrument, so it was very striking to hear, like, for example, a bass, electric bass. So yeah, I just gave her a few comments, and that's it. But I really wished I had the opportunity to tell her that I really admire her.
Yeah.
But luckily, I managed to just like have my name in the credits, so that's enough for me for now.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. That's like, again, a dream come true. And who knows? Maybe she's listening to this episode right now. Hi. Yeah, I don't know. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, we never know.
That's so cool, man. That's, God, like I said, this isn't sponsored. Hashtag not an ad. I'm just saying, I'm going to say this because of how passionate I feel about this game and your work.
Thank you.
You have made an incredible soundtrack for an incredible game. And, you know, I don't like to throw this term out loosely, but I do think this game is basically perfect. 10 out of 10. Of course, there are like some adjustments and stuff, but that's any game. But like, you know, from start to finish, I was having a blast throughout the entire time, listening from the first track to the last track in the credits. It is phenomenal. It's outstanding job. Like, it really takes me to it really helps with the immersion and stuff, you know, like, and this is, and also like on top of just the sound, or I'm sorry, just the music, but like the sound design, like I love that, you know, the bunnies, the rabbit tribe, like when they talk, it's like the strumming of those string instruments, and that's like really cool. Or like the birds, there's like a little whistle, or, you know, like those like little tiny details on top of the music. It just like adds to the whole experience. Then maybe not a lot of people like register that, you know, like some people just like, you know, listen through in passing or whatever, just don't even like acknowledge it. But like these type of small little details and like the themes for every single character specifically and every single area, I think fits and really adds to the world, you know, like for world building, for lore purposes, for character purposes. Because like I noticed this today. I started another playthrough today to get the one of the trophies is you play through the game without healing. Yeah. And I noticed the theme of Bow, like the Teal Lotus theme or whatever, and the first cinematic like opening. Like I noticed some, like when the notes hit, that's when like Bo was like skipping through the water, like, as you know, it like timed. It's hard to explain because I'm not a big musician, but like that type of stuff is freaking cool. It's like those little details, you know, like while Bo was skipping, every time he landed on the water, right before he hit that Teal Lotus, just that light hitting the water, every time it hit, like I can hear some beats, you know, every single time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. This is very special, and I think it's one of the benefits of returning a little bit of your previous question of how it helped to learn classical music, is that in classical music you learn a lot of motif and themes and things like that. So to make a soundtrack more improve it in the way that it can be storytelling.
Yeah.
With those themes. And yeah, that level of detail is also something that I appreciate that Chris is very careful with. He was very good at pointing what we needed with the use of motifs and things like that. So yeah, thank you for noticing the music elements of the game. I really think that everything builds up for the experience, from the visual and the arts, the visuals and the arts, and the sound design, where the sound designer, his name is Miguel. He also did a very good work with many of the things from the sound design.
Yeah.
And yeah, everything is important for the final result.
It very much is. I know I said like the last question was the last question before the speed round, but did you play Okami at all to get any inspiration for this game?
I've never played Okami, but I listened to the soundtrack,
right,
to like realize what kind of instruments they use for more traditional Japanese music, because Okami game, it's more faithful to authentic Japanese music,
right?
Because yeah, they use, I think they use less like melodies and harmonies in the Western style.
Mm-hmm.
But I one soundtrack that I used a lot more than Okami for the Japanese style influence was Monster Hunter Rise.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because that soundtrack for me it's the best example of Japanese instruments with the Western color. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, man, that's so cool. Well, I highly recommend like giving Okami a try. You're a big Zelda fan. It's basically a Zelda game, but you know, feudal Japan yokai stuff. It's great, dude. Like, you're gonna love it.
Yeah, it's definitely in my list.
Yeah. All right. Well, now let's get into the speed round, where I'm going to ask you a bunch of silly random questions and we're just going to see how you do. You ready?
Okay, yeah.
If you were the final boss in a video game, what would your title be?
Wow, it's a tricky question because I've never thought about that. Probably something related with music. Sound, something like sound maker or something like that. Like, or something like in Avatar, what's the name of element bending? Sound bending or something like that.
Oh, I see. I was thinking like Moise the Noise.
Oh, but it could be catchy.
But you want something like sound incorporated, or the sound bender?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Okay, we can work with that. What would your boss theme music be? And you can choose any song from anywhere, or you can make your own.
If I had to choose one from a current boss fight, probably it will be one of Nier Automata. For example, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Nier, but there's the Song of Ancients.
Mm-hmm.
I really love that boss battle fight, and it's used throughout 2 different games, in Nier Automata and Nier Replicant.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that probably a boss battle theme like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to start playing Nier Automata for the first time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. Cool. If you can live in the world of your favorite childhood show, movie, or video game, which one would it be and why?
If it was a show, probably it will be Hey Arnold.
Wow.
I love Hey Arnold. If it was a movie, it will be The Lord of the Rings. And if it was a video game, it will be Xenoblade.
Dude, I getcha. Which Xenoblade?
The first one.
The first one? Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Which character from your childhood favorite show, movie, or game would you most like to have as a friend in real life?
Well, from the example that I gave, from Arnold will be Arnold. From The Lord of the Rings will be Sam. And from Xenoblade will be Ricky.
Yeah, man. Yeah, those are great answers, dude. If your current favorite show or movie were to be adapted into a musical, what genre of music would you envision for it?
I think will be like classical, I will say. I don't imagine like any other genre. Yeah, just classical orchestral music.
And what's the show or movie that's being turned into a classical musical?
Well, I will probably say the same that I told before, that my current favorite movie is always gonna be the Lord of the Rings. So I would say it's the same, like just the soundtrack, I would say.
Understood. If you could attend any fictional event, for example, the Ewok celebration in Star Wars Episode 6, which one would it be and why?
Probably from from the Lord of the Rings, the first Hobbit party in the Shire. I will attempt to Bilbo's party.
Okay. If you can have a cameo appearance in any movie or show, which one would it be and what role would you play?
Maybe to change a different movie. I would love to be, for example, in Arcane or Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Those two are really good, and probably I will just be a musician or something like that.
Yeah, like somebody playing the violin like on the street corner or something. I getcha. Cool. If you had to guess, what would you say is the song you've listened to the most times in your life?
It's the one that I told you from the Japanese band.
Right.
Or probably one of the Xenoblade Chronicles tracks.
Yeah.
One of those. I'm not sure which one, but it could be easily probably Gaur Plains or something like that.
Yeah, man. Can't go wrong with that. Can't really get tired of it either. Damn, that's good. What activities or pursuits most make you lose track of time?
Playing video games.
Yeah, definitely. Man. What would your 14-year-old self think of who you are today?
Probably would say that it's cool that we managed to make a game that made it to a Nintendo console, because I grew up with Nintendo, and just watching a trailer followed by the Nintendo Switch sound and logo, that will be like really awesome. So it will be like proud. He will be proud.
Yeah, man, of course. And I don't know if you saw, but on the PlayStation like home screen or whatever, they have like a visual that's like our monthly picks. And you know what was like right there, the first thing? Bo.
Oh wow.
Yeah, right?
I didn't know. Yeah, I don't have a PlayStation 5, so...
Yeah.
But that's cool.
Yeah, man. Bo is picking up a lot of traction, and I love it. I'm here for it. All right, you made it to the end. It is now time to recommend 3 people that when your episode comes out, you'll share this with, and that you think they'll be a good guest to be on the show, and that you're going to help me get them on the show.
Okay, well, the first one will be probably the girl that did the animations of the cinematics. She's quite famous as I've seen. Her name is Marlene. She did the cinematic from the beginning, and I have had the pleasure to also help her with animation she did for her university. So she's quite probably famous, and she animates really well. I think she's from Poland, so yeah. And well, also maybe any other of the people that work on the game, for example, Miguel that did the sound design, or the people that did the other animations from the game and drawings and things like that. Also, I think his name is Alexis and Mikami. And I will probably give a shout out to all the people that also work on the game, because I admire all the other aspects of the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will probably just mention those, because I'm not sure who else to name.
That's totally fine, man. I am so down to talk to more people who had a part in making this amazing game. Yeah, let's see what we can do to get them on the show. And yeah, man, I'm down. Thank you so much for being on the show. This has been awesome, dude. I've had such a great time. I've had, not just talking to you, but also like playing and listening through this amazing game you were a part of, through your amazing music. Thank you so much for like everything that you're doing.
No, thank you for inviting me here, because it's exciting when someone really appreciates the work that I made. So I really appreciate that, and I'm really grateful for all the support from you and from everyone that follows the game and plays the game, and thank you so much.
All right, that's all the time we have for today, guys. If you want to hear more from Moi, be sure to follow him on Twitter at MoiXHKA. And be sure to check out his music on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, and Bandcamp at Moi Camargo. Links to all this will be in the description down below. Please let us know what you think about this episode somewhere on the internet, and make sure to follow us on Instagram at Razzle Dazzle Show, on TikTok at Razzle_Dazzle_Show, and on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Raz_Daz_pod. Be sure to leave us 5-star ratings and a nice little written review down below, and we'll catch you on the next one. Next time on The Razzle Dazzle Show.
but music has a special place in people's hearts. And if it touches you on a personal level, to me, that's way more important. So for me, my own personal work from Arkanites and even Eden World Builder are more important to me than The Greatest Showman, which I love. But that, I was a producer of some of the music on that. So while that holds a special place in my heart because it proved to me that I was capable of doing that level of work, I'm much happier to hear from fans of smaller games and to hear personal stories about how the music had changed their lives and all of that. And that's really meaningful. But yeah, man, I'll never not be grateful for that opportunity.
Tune in next week.